Lucas had learned to move like a shadow. At La Tavola, an Italian restaurant squeezed between a nail salon and a pawn shop in Queens, his job was simple on paper and exhausting in practice. Mop the floors before opening, clear the plates before anyone complained, and never ever draw attention. Invisible people kept the place running, and Lucas was as invisible as they came. He had been in the United States for just over a year. Back in Brazil, he had studied accounting for 3 semesters before money ran out and his father got sick. Here, degrees did not matter. What mattered was who could work the longest hours for the lowest pay without breaking. Lucas rented a small room in a shared basement, sent part of his salary home every month, and told his mother that everything was fine. It was not, but the lie helped her sleep. The Friday the prank began looked like any other. The city outside was loud and restless. Inside, the restaurant smelled of garlic, tomatoes, and cleaning chemicals. Lucas arrived an hour early anyway. It was the only time of day when the dining room was quiet enough for him to breathe. He swept under the tables, straightened chairs, and checked how many napkins were left. Little routines gave him the illusion of control. By 6 o'clock, the noise started building. Cutlery clinked, the espresso machine hissed, waiters shouted orders in a mix of English and Italian. Lucas kept his head down, eyes trained on the floor, ears sharp for his name. When someone called Lucas, that usually meant something unpleasant, a spill, a broken glass, a complaint about speed. That night, the tone was different. "Lucas, meu parceiro, come here," Miguel said, leaning against the bar with a grin that tried too hard to look friendly. Miguel was a waiter, also Latino, a few years older, always talking about the American dream while flirting with customers and arguing with the kitchen. When the restaurant was full, Miguel called Lucas my brother. When it was empty, he barely noticed him. Lucas wiped his hands on his apron and walked over. "What happened?" "Relax, it's good news," Miguel said, lowering his voice. "You remember that private table in the back? The one they sometimes close the curtains for?" Lucas did. Everyone did. The table belonged to certain special clients who arrived in black cars with tinted windows. They never waited, never checked prices, and never heard the word no. The owner, Mr. Romano, became extremely polite around them. So did everyone else. Miguel glanced around and continued. "There's a girl coming tonight. Important girl, rich, beautiful, single. She told the hostess she likes quiet guys, the kind that work hard, don't talk much. Sound like anyone you know?" Lucas frowned. "What are you talking about?" "The guys and we set you up, man," Miguel said, eyes shining with the thrill of his own story. "A blind date. She thinks you're a friend of the owner, a serious guy. You'll sit down, have dinner, talk. Who knows? Maybe your life changes tonight." A knot formed in Lucas's stomach. It sounded ridiculous. People like him did not go on dates with rich girls, especially not at that table. But part of him, the part that was tired of being invisible, felt a spark of curiosity. "I don't even have clothes for that," he muttered. "You have a clean shirt, don't you?" Miguel replied. "And anyway, that's the charm. You're authentic. Not like these clowns who pretend to be something they're not." Behind Miguel, 2 other waiters laughed quietly, pretending to polish glasses. Lucas noticed the way they avoided his eyes. Something was off. He straightened his back. "Is this a joke?" Miguel raised both hands as if offended. "Come on, why would I waste a table like that for a joke? Listen, the boss is fine with it. She's connected, man. If she likes you, maybe she talks to her father about getting you a better job, or at least you have a nice meal for once." The mention of her father echoed in Lucas's mind, but he did not yet connect it to the whispers he had heard about certain clients. He had seen men with heavy watches and heavier expressions in that private room. Men nobody called by name, only "Sir." Men whose arrival made the kitchen go silent for a moment. He looked at the clock. It was barely 7. The alleged date was scheduled for 8:30, according to Miguel. That gave him 90 minutes to decide whether to believe any of this. "Why me?" Lucas asked. "Because you're different," Miguel said smoothly. "You're not chasing tips or flirting for attention. Girls like that notice. Trust me." It was almost flattering, which made it more dangerous. The rest of the evening seemed to speed up. Tables filled, orders piled up, and Lucas kept moving, carrying plates, dodging chairs, wiping up spills. But in the back of his mind, another scene played on repeat. A mysterious girl at the private table waiting for him. At 7:45, Mr. Romano arrived, which was unusual at that hour. He usually came later, when the special clients were due. He walked through the dining room with his usual quick, nervous steps, greeting regulars with a smile that never reached his eyes. When his gaze passed over Lucas, it paused for half a second longer than usual. "You finished in the back?" he asked. "Yes, sir. Make sure the private room is perfect," Romano said. "No dust, no fingerprints on the glass, no mistakes. They're expecting someone important tonight." "Of course," Lucas answered. He went to the private room immediately. The space felt like a different restaurant. Softer lights, thicker tablecloth, heavy curtains that could close them off from the rest of the world. He adjusted the cutlery, straightened the wine glasses, checked the candles. For a brief moment, he imagined sitting at the table instead of standing beside it. The thought embarrassed him, and he shook it away. By 8:20, Lucas had almost convinced himself that Miguel's story was nothing but a cruel way to pass time. Then the door opened, and the atmosphere changed. 2 men in dark suits entered first. They scanned the room with the kind of attention that came from years of expecting trouble. One of them spoke quietly into a small earpiece. Only after they were satisfied did a young woman step inside. She was not dressed like the women who came for selfies and fancy cocktails. Her black dress was simple, almost understated, and her hair was pulled back in a way that showed her face clearly. She moved with the calm of someone used to being watched. Isabella. Lucas did not know her name yet, but the staff did. He heard it whispered near the kitchen door a few minutes later. Isabella Romano, the owner's special guest, the daughter of a man whose last name carried weight in parts of the city Lucas preferred not to think about, the daughter of a mafia boss, according to the rumors that never appeared in any official record. Miguel pushed a clean shirt into Lucas's hands near the storage room. "Go change, now, she's already there." "This is crazy," Lucas said, heart pounding. "I have to work. The tables. I'll cover for you for half an hour," Miguel replied quickly. "Consider it a break. When will you get another chance like this?" The shirt was slightly too big, but clean and without stains. Lucas buttoned it with trembling fingers. He checked his reflection in the small bathroom mirror, dark circles under his eyes, a day's worth of stubble, hair that refused to stay in place. He looked exactly like what he was, a tired worker trying to look presentable. He almost walked back to the kitchen. He almost pretended the whole thing had never started. Instead, he found himself in front of the private room door, hand hovering near the handle. On the other side, a woman who lived in a different world sat at a table prepared for someone important. Somewhere in the dining room, a group of waiters tried not to laugh too loudly, waiting to watch the show. Lucas took a breath deep enough to hurt. Then he opened the door. For a second, Lucas thought he had walked into the wrong life. The private room felt even smaller with Isabella sitting alone at the table, a closed menu in front of her, a glass of water untouched by her hand. Her 2 bodyguards stayed near the wall, watchful but silent, their presence heavy enough to change the air. Lucas had seen important customers before, but no one like her. She looked calm, composed, as if nothing in this place could surprise her. He froze by the door, fingers still touching the handle. "Close it, please," she said, without raising her voice. The English was clear, steady, accented only by the kind of refinement that money buys. Lucas obeyed, letting the door slide shut behind him. The noise of the restaurant dropped to a distant murmur, like traffic heard from an apartment window. Inside the room, every sound seemed louder, the clink of glass, the rustle of her dress when she shifted in her chair, his own breath. "You must be Lucas," Isabella said. He blinked. Yes, yes I am." She studied him openly, eyes moving from his too large shirt to his worn shoes, then back to his face. There was curiosity there, but no disgust, no mockery. If she knew this was a prank, she hid it well. "Sit," she said, nodding to the chair across from her. "You look more nervous than the staff." Lucas hesitated. Part of his brain screamed that this was wrong. Employees did not sit at that table. They passed plates through the door and left. Still, the memory of Miguel's words and the distant echo of laughter from the corridor pushed him forward. If this was a joke, backing out now would only make it worse. He sat, keeping his back straight. His hands stayed on his lap, fingers intertwined so they wouldn't shake. "I'm sorry," he began. "If there's some kind of mistake, I can leave. I work here. I clean. I'm not—" "I know you work here," Isabella interrupted gently. "That's what makes this interesting." She leaned back slightly, as if testing him. "Tell me, Lucas, did they explain who I am?" He swallowed. "They said you were important." One corner of her mouth lifted. "That's one word for it." The bodyguards exchanged a brief look, but said nothing. "I'm Isabella," she continued. "My father does business with Mr. Romano. We come here when we want privacy. People usually try very hard to impress me. You don't look like someone trying to impress anyone." "That's because I didn't know I was coming here until an hour ago," he replied before he could stop himself. Her eyes brightened, catching the spark of honesty. "So they really didn't tell you much?" "No, just that there would be someone here and that I should sit." "And you came anyway." He looked down at the tablecloth. "I didn't want to at first, but I thought maybe it would be rude not to, or maybe it was something serious with the owner. I'm not used to saying no." There was a silence, but not a heavy one. Isabella picked up the menu and opened it, more out of habit than need. She clearly knew this list by heart. "Where are you from, Lucas?" "Brazil." "How long in New York?" "About a year." "Do you like it?" He took a breath. There were the answers people expected. "It's great, I'm grateful, I love the opportunity," and there was the truth that pressed against his ribs every time he walked home in the cold. "It's different from what I imagined," he said carefully. "The city is beautiful from far away. Up close, it's expensive." Isabella laughed, not loudly, but with genuine amusement. The sound loosened something in the room. Even one of the guards glanced over, surprised. "Honest," she said. "I like that." A waiter slid in quietly to pour wine into her glass, leaving Lucas's empty. Isabella watched the movement, then gave a small nod toward Lucas. "Give him a glass too," she said. The waiter froze. For a moment, he looked torn between following her instruction and respecting the unwritten rules of the place. Finally, he poured a modest amount into a second glass and set it in front of Lucas, eyes avoiding his. When he left, Lucas exhaled slowly. "You don't have to do that," he murmured. "I'm on the clock." "Then consider it part of your work," she replied. "Tonight, your task is to have dinner with me." There was something in the way she said it, firm but not arrogant, that made it sound less like a joke and more like a decision. Lucas lifted the glass, unsure if he should drink. Isabella noticed. "You're afraid of getting in trouble," she said. "I'm afraid of a lot of things," he answered. "Losing my job is one of them." "Why this job?" she asked. "You're smart, I can tell. Why not something else?" He looked at her, wondering how much of his life to lay out on this table. Because when you arrive in a country with almost no money, no contacts and no perfect English, you don't choose. You accept what appears. This is what appeared. Her expression softened. For a second, the distance between their worlds seemed smaller. The door opened again. This time, Mr. Romano himself stepped in, his smile tight. He glanced at Isabella, then at Lucas, taking in the scene, the two glasses, the way they were facing each other like equals. "Everything all right, Isabella?" he asked. She did not break eye contact with Lucas. "Yes. I asked for his company. I hope that's not a problem." Romano's throat moved as he swallowed. "Of course not. Anything you need." His eyes flickered toward Lucas, a silent warning and a question at the same time. "What are you doing here? How did this happen?" Lucas lowered his gaze instinctively. "Good," Isabella said. "Then we'll order soon." Romano nodded and left, closing the door. The guards relaxed by a fraction. "So," she said, turning back to Lucas, "let me guess. The staff thought it would be fun to put the cleaning guy at my table and watch what happened." The words hit him like cold water. "You knew?" he asked. "Of course," she replied calmly. "Do you think they're subtle? I've been around men who hide real secrets all my life. A few waiters trying not to laugh is not hard to read." Heat rose to his face. Shame, frustration, and a strange sense of relief all at once. At least now there were no illusions. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "If I had known, I wouldn't have—" "Don't apologize," Isabella cut in. Her gaze was steady, almost protective. "They didn't humiliate me. They tried to humiliate you." He looked up, surprised by the firmness in her voice. "And?" he asked. She held his eyes for a long moment, then took a slow sip of wine before answering. When she finally spoke, her words were simple, almost casual, but they shifted the ground beneath his feet. "I liked him," she said. The sentence hung in the air, heavier than the crystal glasses, stronger than the quiet laughter that probably echoed outside the closed door. Lucas did not know what exactly she meant. His honesty, his discomfort, his refusal to pretend. But something in her tone told him this was not part of anyone's joke. Outside, the restaurant continued its normal rhythm. Plates clattered, orders were shouted, and life went on as if nothing had changed. Inside the private room, for the first time in a long time, Lucas felt seen. The rest of the dinner passed in a blur. They ordered simple dishes, pasta for her, a smaller portion of the same for him. At her insistence, Isabella asked questions that cut through small talk. Not just where he worked, but what he missed from home. Not just why he had come to New York, but what he was afraid of becoming if he stayed. Lucas answered cautiously at first, then with more openness, as he realized she wasn't collecting information to use against him. She listened in a way few people ever did, as if nothing outside that room mattered. When the plates were finally cleared and the door opened again, the staff tried to peek inside without being obvious. Isabella noticed and stood up gracefully, adjusting the strap of her bag. "Walk me to the door," she said to Lucas. He stiffened. "I don't think I should—" "You're just being polite," she replied. "No one can punish you for that. If they do, they can talk to me." The guards opened the door. The noise of the restaurant rushed back in, branches of conversations, ringing phones, clattering dishes. Heads turned as Isabella stepped out of the private room with Lucas at her side. To an outsider, it looked like a scene from another life, the elegant woman. The man in a too-big shirt, the eyes of the staff, trying to pretend they weren't watching. Miguel was near the bar, towel over his shoulder, smile already forming. It died halfway when he saw Isabella's expression. Calm, unreadable, completely free of embarrassment. "Thank you for the evening," she said to Lucas, loud enough for a few nearby to hear. "I'm not used to talking to people who don't want something from me. It was refreshing." He cleared his throat. "Thank you for not sending me away." Her lips curved slightly. Why would I send away the only honest person at this table? She glanced around. The message was not subtle. A couple of waiters looked down. Miguel forced a laugh that convinced no one. Outside, the black car was already waiting, engine running. One guard opened the door, the other scanned the sidewalk. Before getting in, Isabella turned back to Lucas. "I'll be here again soon," she said. "Next time I expect at least one recommendation from the menu. You work here, you should know what's worth trying." "I don't usually eat here," he admitted. "I just clean up after everyone who does." Then that's the first problem we fix," she replied. "Good night, Lucas." The car door closed with a soft, final sound. The vehicle pulled away, folding back into the city's endless movement as if nothing special had happened. Inside, the silence around Lucas lasted just long enough to be noticeable. Then the noise returned, forced, uncomfortable. Miguel approached, a strained smile on his face. "So, meu irmão, look at you. Fancy date, huh?" Lucas watched him for a second, seeing the prank clearly now. The plan to humiliate him, the anticipation of watching him stumble in front of a powerful woman. The humiliation still stung, but something had changed. Isabella's last words echoed in his mind. "I liked him." The phrase didn't sound romantic. It sounded like a verdict, an assessment of character in a world where most people were pretending. "Why?" Lucas asked quietly. "Why did you do it?" Miguel shrugged. "It was just a joke. Relax." She clearly didn't mind. "It wasn't funny to me," Lucas said. For once he did not lower his eyes. Miguel's smile faltered just a little. "Go back to work," Mr. Romano snapped from behind the bar, tension in his voice. "All of you, this isn't a playground." The staff scattered. Lucas returned to his usual tasks, but the rhythm of the night had changed. Customers still came and went, plates still needed washing, the floor still got sticky under spilled drinks. Yet every now and then he caught snippets of whisper. She talked to him the whole time. She defended him in front of Romano. "And did you see the way the boss looked? He's scared of whoever her father is." Lucas pretended not to hear. He focused on stacking plates, wiping tables, counting minutes until closing. But when he stepped outside near midnight, the cold air hitting his face, the city lights looked slightly different. The streets were the same. His life, technically, was the same. Still, someone from a world completely apart had looked at him and decided he was worth a second meeting. On the subway home, he stood near the door, hands wrapped around the metal pole, body swaying with each turn of the tracks. Faces blurred in front of him, a mix of exhaustion and distraction. Everyone carried invisible weights, bills, secrets, regrets. Lucas thought of Isabella's calm eyes, her measured voice, the way even the owner of the restaurant adjusted his behavior around her. He knew what people said about families like hers. He had heard the word mafia whispered enough times to understand that danger didn't always wear a visible uniform. It wore suits, watches and polite smiles. It signed contracts and made people disappear from ledgers, not just from streets. So why did he feel safer with her than with some of his own co-workers? When he reached his basement room, the quiet felt heavier than usual. He sat on the edge of the thin mattress, shoes still on, staring at the cracked ceiling. His phone buzzed with a new message from his mother, a photo of his father sitting up in bed, thinner but smiling. A caption full of love and worry he didn't have the energy to read twice. He typed back, "Estou bem, trabalhando muito, amo vocês." Then he added, almost on impulse, "Hoje aconteceu uma coisa diferente." He deleted that last sentence before sending. There was no way to explain any of it without opening a door he wasn't ready for. Lucas lay down without turning on the light. Sleep did not come easily. His mind replayed every detail, the private room, the guards, Isabella's laugh, her final phrase. He told himself that nothing would come of it, that people like her did not think about people like him once they stepped out of the room. But when he closed his eyes, he saw her looking at him as if he were not invisible. 2 days later she came back. It was a Tuesday, usually one of the slowest nights. Lucas was cleaning a corner near the entrance when the door opened and the room stiffened. Romano hurried from the back, tie slightly crooked, smile already fixed in place. The hostess stood up straighter. Isabella walked in wearing a dark coat over simple jeans and boots, less formal than before, but no less commanding. One guard followed. The second stayed outside this time. She stopped when she saw Lucas. The pause was brief but real. "Good evening, Lucas," she said, as if greeting any colleague. He straightened instinctively. "Good evening." Romano jumped in. "Private room is ready, Isabella. Same table as before." "Actually," she replied, moving her gaze from Lucas to the rest of the dining room, "I'd like to sit somewhere else tonight, maybe in the main area, near the window." Romano blinked. "Of course, but are you sure? The private room is more discreet." "I'm not hiding," she said calmly. "A table by the window, please." The hostess rushed to prepare one. Isabella turned back to Lucas as if picking up a conversation they'd never started. "Have you eaten yet?" she asked. He shook his head. "Not yet. Later, maybe." "Ask the kitchen to send you a plate of whatever I order," she said. "Call it a professional curiosity. I want your opinion this time." He almost protested out of habit, then stopped. Saying no would probably cause more trouble than yes. "Okay," he said quietly. "Thank you." As she walked to her table, some customers recognized her only as a wealthy young woman with security. Others watched the staff's reaction and understood there was more to the story. Rumors had a way of filling silence faster than any soundtrack. From his place near the kitchen door, Lucas saw how the restaurant adjusted around her presence. Service became sharper, voices dropped slightly. Even Miguel moved with less swagger. It was as if an invisible border had appeared. On one side, ordinary people, on the other, people whose choices could not be ignored. Later, when a plate identical to hers appeared on a side counter with his name muttered over it, Lucas ate quickly in a corner, standing, fork in hand. The food was good, better than anything he could afford on his own. He tried to taste it the way she might, noticing the balance of flavors, the texture of the pasta, the seasoning. From across the room, through the reflection in a framed picture, he caught her watching him for a moment. Not in a predatory way, not like someone evaluating property, but like someone measuring a decision. 2 different worlds, he thought, swallowing. Yet somehow, their lines had crossed.